All right, what is going on in the cruise industry right now? Because if you look at the news lately, every ship seems to be the setting for a true crime documentary. But is cruising really dangerous, or is just more attention being called to some of these things? We're going to talk about that and a couple of other things today as we are in this Travel Tuesday minute or video that we are doing. If you've been around this channel for even a minute, you know how much I love to travel with my husband. He and I love to cruise. We love to go out and explore and experience new places. In fact, I'm a former high school English teacher, and exploring and experiencing things is just kind of our thing. So lately in the news, there's been a lot of information or a lot of stories about danger on cruise ships. And I want to talk about it because is the cruise industry actually safe? Or is this something that people who have never cruised before should really be concerned about? So let's get into it. So if your FYP looks anything like mine lately, you're going to be noticing a lot of stories about things that have been happening in the cruise industry. So every ship at sea seems to be what? Like the scene of some true crime documentary or something. So the big question is cruising actually safe? So let's dig into what's true and not just look at the headlines because let's be honest, headlines are meant to sensationalize. Trust me, I teach rhetoric. That's what I do for a living. Okay, so first, let's talk about the headlines that everybody is seeing, right? We have this one here. The FBI is probing a stepbrother in a cruise ship death of a Florida teen. We also have this one here where a missing cruise ship passenger is found alive after over a week of vanishing. And then we also have this dramatic at-sea rescue of a dad who jumped overboard on the Disney Wish in order to save his daughter who had fallen overboard. And then finally, we have these stories just out this week of two different men in their 70s who have fallen off of ships and are presumed dead. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about Anna Kepner because this is the one I think that a lot of people are really concerned about. And the reason why is because when this story first came out, a lot of people were really quick to blame the cruise line. They were really quick to be like, there's no safety protocols, there's no, right? They were all like, oh, typical Carnival cruise, which not typical Carnival cruise. I've been on Carnival ships, they are amazing. That's a whole nother story right there. But Anna Kepner, she was 17 years old, vacationing with her family on a Carnival cruise ship. She was out with her family. She got tired. She went back to her cabin, told her grandma that she was going back to her cabin, went back to the cabin as seen on security footage, and then she doesn't leave the cabin the rest of the night. The next morning at breakfast, she doesn't show up to breakfast, and the cabin steward is cleaning the room, and that is unfortunately when Anna's body was found deceased under a bed covered in life jackets. So there's a lot going on here. When the story first broke, a lot of people assumed that it was somebody from the cruise line, that it was a stranger. When you're on these cruise ships, it is you and up to 6,000 of your closest friends, right? And you have to assume that the people you're traveling with are safe, right? Because they're your family. But in this instance, what's now starting to come out is this is not cruise line culpability at all. It's actually not danger of the cruise line itself, but it's presumably and allegedly a family member that perpetrated this against Anna. So a lot of things to be seen here. Are there dangerous spots on cruise ships? Absolutely. I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is, the crime rate in other places, hotels, resorts, even, I don't know, movie theaters, right? The crime there is a little bit higher than we expect to see on a cruise ship. When we're on a cruise ship, you think about all the safety protocols, to scan in and scan out. They know who every guest is. I have never been on a cruise ship where I couldn't find a crew member very quickly if I needed one. So there's always people moving about and whatever, and you feel very safe and protected in cruise ship. But I think what's important is you still need to realize that you still need to be aware of your surroundings. You still need to be able to identify what's going on in and around you, right? So I think that in this case with Anna Kepner, unfortunately, the family observed all of the safety protocols that they could, but unfortunately, this is just a tragic, horrible, horrible event. And they are now looking at, like it says, a step sibling of hers that may have perpetrated this act. And again, this is all allegedly and whatnot, but and the family is asking for privacy. So I'm trying to not dig too deep into other than what's publicly available, but the family is torn apart. But does this tie into any sense of cruise ships not being safe? And I don't think so. I don't think that this is a hallmark of cruises or cruise ships being unsafe, because again, this is an isolated circumstance. Now, if you are concerned about safety on a cruise ship, again, you're traveling with up to 6,000 people that you don't know, then you're going to always want to keep in mind the same safety protocols that you would in any place, right? Keep an eye on your drink. Don't let anybody tamper with it. If you think it's been tampered with, don't drink it. Make sure that you're in well-lit public areas. Make sure that if you feel uncomfortable, you have somebody that you know with you, right? All of those things should still stand to reason. I believe that on cruise ships, we do kind of put our guard down because of all the safety protocols and all the nets and everything that have been in place. And you're on this floating city with 6,000 other people, and you just kind of get to know them over the length of the sailing, and you start to feel comfortable. Again, any public place, you need to make sure that you're vigilant. I don't believe that the Anna Kepner story will lead to any major changes in cruise ship security or protocol, but I also don't believe that this is just a tragic accident, but not something that should keep a new cruiser away from sailing because they think that a cruise ship is dangerous in this aspect. Next, I want to talk about Anne Evans. Anne Evans was a passenger on a Royal Caribbean ship that was visiting St. Martin, and she had gone missing. So after the cruise excursions, after everything, the ship did its final counts, and she was not found. The ship still has to leave port. They contacted all of the authorities there in St. Martin, and they were looking for Miss Evans. Turns out there was no nefarious play at play here. Miss Evans had purposefully and intentionally gathered her stuff. She left a note. She left, and she wasn't coming back. She wanted to disappear. Now, why is this story important, and why is it raising so many alarm bells? Well, if you're on Netflix at all, you may have seen the documentary about Amy Lynn Bradley. If you haven't seen it, I really highly suggest that you go and watch that. But Amy Lynn Bradley was on a Royal Caribbean ship in 1998, and she went missing at some point. I watched the documentary, and it was, she was last seen with a crew member, or she was last seen. There were a lot of different places where she was last seen, and at some point they just could not find her. Family raised alarm bells. They searched the entire ship. They did not find her. The next port of call, they did even more in depth. But Amy went missing and was never seen again. And to this day, the case is open. In fact, this is the FBI's most wanted website, where any information leading to Amy Lynn Bradley's recovery of any sort is being welcomed here on the FBI website. So this is a case that's still open. So when Miss Evans went missing, all the alarm bells triggered of, hey, we have another missing passenger. We don't know what's going on here. We don't know if this is foul play. All of the authorities were called into place. But again, since the Amy Lynn Bradley case, there's been a lot of security protocols that have been stepped up and moved up in the cruise industry. And it turns out that this is not that case at all. She was found alive. She was found purposely to have left the ship. She wanted to disappear. This is a case that should cause a new cruiser to be concerned that people are going missing in ports of call. No, because this was a purposeful decision. Amy Lynn Bradley is a tragic case. It is horrible. But since then, again, protocols have been put into place. And again, like I said before, if you're traveling somewhere that you have never been, make sure that you are following all of the rules of safety that you would follow anywhere. Now we're getting to all the man overboard stories. Man overboard is tragic when it happens. And I know I'm using the word tragic a lot, but when a man overboard scenario happens, it's somewhere in the 90% range where the person is not recovered. And that is because of the speed at which the cruise ship is going through, the tide that the cruise ship creates. There's a whole bunch of science behind it that I, as an English teacher, am not going to try to explain to you because it wouldn't come out right. But what I'm saying is, when somebody jumps off of the ship, first of all, they won't be able to get enough clearance away from the ship. to be able to get away from that section of going under the ship, in my understanding. But also, the ship is going 22, 25, 27 knots, which is pretty fast. And it's going to take the ship almost an entire mile to turn around. And so at that point, a lot of times that person will have either succumbed to cold water, potentially animals, aren't able to swim, and recovery in those times is very, very, very difficult. Now, before we get into this, if you ever do see a man overboard situation, if you are on a ship, on any vessel in the ocean, what you're going to want to do is have one person sit there and focus their eyes on that person and continue pointing to them in the water. That is how you're going to let the captain and other crew members know where the person is. You're going to point. You're literally just going to point. While you're doing that and having other people pointing, you're going to get somebody else to go and run and get a crew member. When that crew member is able to then identify or get the captain. Okay, so that's what you're going to do if you see a man overboard. The biggest story of the year this year was the Disney Wish. A dad jumped overboard to save his daughter who had fallen overboard near Fort Lauderdale. Now, there were a lot of, again, stories that came out about this right at the beginning. People saying that the little girl was sitting up there, that she was climbing, that she was unsupervised, all of these different things. There's now more information on it, that they were doing photo shoots and mom was encouraging her to be doing photo shoots in different area. It's unclear to me as to whether or not mom was standing there when she climbed up on the railing or whatever, but she climbed up onto a railing where there was a big porthole behind her. And if you've ever been on a cruise ship, they're constantly moving in the water. They're rocking back and forth. It's just what they do, right? And even though it feels extremely sturdy and stable, it's still moving. So it's very, very easy for you to get caught off guard and lose your balance, right? I've had that happen to me just walking down the hallway on the way to my stateroom. So being up and sitting up on a balcony or up on a railing is not a good thing to do at all. In fact, there's signs all over cruise ships that say, don't sit on the balcony, don't climb the balcony, not the balcony, don't sit on the railing, don't climb the railing, don't do these things because it is unsafe. So whether the little girl was encouraged by a parent, whether she just did it on her own, I don't know. But I do know that her falling overboard could have been prevented had she not been encouraged previously. Now, I'm not trying to shame the parents. I'm not trying to, none of that. I am so thankful that this little girl was found and that dad was found and that everybody was able to survive this incident. It is truly, truly a miracle. The girl fell overboard, dad jumped in overboard, got her, and Disney was able to, again, go and rescue her and bring her back. So, the thing is that the ship was moving so quickly. So you see this, the ship was moving so quickly that people became tiny dots in the sea, and then you lose sight of them. That's why I was talking about the pointing, right? They were right there. They immediately deployed a lifeboat to go and get her. And I apologize, I said the Disney Wish. It was the Dream. And then, let's see, dad caught her, treaded water for a while. You can see right here on the Disney Dream where you've got this open portal right here and then the railing that's across it here. It's assumed that this is where she had climbed up and then had fallen over. There was a lot of speculation that because these portals aren't closed in with plexiglass or whatever, that the cruise line could be at fault. Again, these railings are meant to protect you. When I'm on cruise ships and I stand up next to the railing, it hits me right about here. I'm 5'2", so those railings are close to 4 feet high. For somebody to go over the railing, they're going to have to purposely climb on it or go over it. With all the signage and things that are all around saying, be careful, don't do that, don't climb on railings, don't railings, In this case, this could have truly been prevented had the little girl, I don't know, had she not climbed up onto the railing. So that brings me to this next one, which was a man who was 76 on a cruise in Europe. And he actually, it says he plunged from the cruise ship just 17 miles off of Tenerife, meaning that it's highly probable that the man chose to do this, that this was his end of life decision. Now, we can't get into, there's like no statistics of the mental acuity behind people who jump overboard because, again, we have to piece together the story after the fact. but a majority of the time it is discovered that it was either they were inebriated, um, they felt like they could, or they weren't inebriated and they were just being risky and climbing up over on top, or they decided to make an end of life decision. It is very, very hard to just fall overboard. So, unfortunately, when it comes to safety on cruise ships, again, this comes down to like passenger responsibility. You need to be very, very careful when you're on the sides and not make decisions to jump over. Okay, so what does the data actually show about cruise ship safety? Well, number one, cruise ships have actually a much lower rate of reported crime. So, especially compared to similar environments like hotels and resorts, like I said, even shopping malls, ships have security cameras everywhere. There are crew members everywhere. Like I said, it was really hard for me to go out on a ship at any point during the day or night. I record content and I try to go out in the middle of the night and I would still find crew members or people just there willing to help me. So there was always people around on the ship. So there's controlled entry, ID tracking, 24/7 security. They are very, very safe. So there's very low rate of crime. And not all crimes are publicly reported, but in the categories that are, they are still significantly less than, again, hotels, shopping malls, resorts, things like that. Overboard cases are extremely rare. And they're usually tied to behavior, not ship malfunction. So when you're concerned about going on a ship because you're worried about going overboard, again, that is tied to behavior. So you want to make sure that many of these are that you're being careful, right? Many of these are linked to impairment, deliberate action, or risky behavior. There's no perfect top three. There's no perfect there's no statistic on motivation for going overboard, like I said, but a lot of the people um, who have in the past, it it tends to be one of those categories for an end of life decision, unfortunately. But when it comes to cruise line safety and are the cruise ships safe, this comes down to human passenger decision, not ship malfunction. Number three, not all ships have man overboard protectors. So if you're worried about man overboard, not all the ships have them yet. Some do, many don't. They are working on it throughout the fleets. Most of the newer ships, well, all the newer ships that I've seen released in the last little while, Star of the Seas, Icon of the Seas, the Disney Treasure, they do have these overboard protections. But every line has strict search and rescue protocols. And part of that is understanding your muster drill. When you get on the board, you have to go through a muster drill. You have to go through that whole process of saying, yes, I know how to put on my life jacket. Yes, I know where my emergency station is. Yes, I know all of this. Take those seriously because that is where you're going to learn information that could potentially save a life. And when I was talking about the man overboard drill, where it's, point in the water, I learned that from somebody who worked in the cruise industry. If somebody goes overboard, you point at that person so that you keep eyes on that person at all times. So, the Disney the Disney Dream, in this situation was a perfect example of those strict protocols working the way that they were supposed to. If you're worried about illness and injury on a ship, but now you're worried about getting sick, one of the things that you need to understand is a lot of cruise ships have put into place strict protocols when it comes to cleaning and sanitizing and making sure the areas are, safe for passengers. I know that on Royal Caribbean, every time you go into the buffet, you have to wash your hands. You have to make sure, they have somebody there doing a song and dance telling you, make sure that you washy, like King Washy Washy, right? So on Royal Caribbean, I know that is a thing. I also know that Carnival has significant hand washing stations. They also have hand sanitizer stations around. Make sure you utilize those. One of the biggest ways to prevent yourself from getting like a neurovirus or something like that is good hygienic care. Cruise ships do have hospitals on board. They do have medical facilities on board. I will tell you they're extremely strict about who can and cannot go. They're also very strict about the record keeping that they do there so that if something could potentially be an outbreak that they are able to track it. We went to Maho Beach last October and I broke my toe on a rock. And I went down and asked for a Band-Aid, and the paperwork I had to fill out just for a Band-Aid was kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, but protocol is protocol. Why are we talking about all of this? Because cruising vacations are incredible, and I love them. I wish I could retire on a cruise ship. That would be my ultimate dream. In fact, Royal Caribbean, if you're listening, I would love to be a teacher on one of your cruise ships. I'll just teach about all the cool things that are happening in the next port of call, and I'll just get to sail with you. Just think about it. Just let me know. But part is what really matters. No vacation is the human part is what really matters. No vacation is risk free, right? No cruises, no airports, no road trips. Definitely not the local Walmart parking lot, right? Cruising isn't uniquely dangerous on its own. There's just been a lot of stories lately tied to the cruise industry, and I think it's just because the cruise industry is booming right now. Again, Royal Caribbean just launched 2 huge, brand new ships, and they're launching a third one, Legend of the Seas, coming up soon. Carnival just launched its Celebration, and Celebration has a sister ship coming out soon. Like, all these big mega ships are coming out, and things are huge, and Disney's launching Treasure, and just everybody's interested in cruising. The more people that are interested in it, the more news it's going to happen, and the more we're going to hear about it. So it's not uniquely dangerous, but these stories are gaining steam, and they're gaining attention because of the interest in the cruising industry. So, in fact, based on the data that we can compare, cruising is probably the lowest risk way to travel. At the end of the day, let's talk practical safety on this or any vacation, right? Ships are safe. At the end of the day, ships are safe. People make unsafe choices at sea, on land, in resorts, in theme parks, Walmart, anywhere, right? Some common sense should apply in all of these places. Number one, don't go wandering alone in unfamiliar areas. Number two, keep an eye on your drink. If you have a drink and it's sitting there and you don't know if somebody's tampered with it, then don't drink the rest of it. Push it aside and get a new one, because that is always a possibility. Number three, know your surroundings. Know what's around you at all times. Keep alert. Just because you're on a ship with 6,000 other people that you've been on with for 3 days doesn't mean that one of them doesn't intend you harm. Not that I'm saying they do, but, just keep. Yes, the headlines are scary, but the cruise industry isn't spiraling into any dangerous caverns anytime soon. The reality of it is much, much calmer than your FYP or the news or any of these media outlets are having you. I love cruising. My husband loves cruising. We cruise all the time. We enjoy it. We are mainly Royal Caribbean people. We've sailed Carnival. We've got trips booked with other lines so we can try them out. But cruising in and of itself is a safe vacation option. Just remember to keep your wits about you, be realistic about where you are, and remember, you're still in a public place with public people, so you're going to want to make sure that you stay observant of the things around you. All right, so this was a lot of fun. I think I like deep diving into things. If you like deep diving into things, let me know. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of those things that you need to do so that you can stay alerted as to when we upload another video. I'm going to try and do travel videos every Tuesday, and we're going to be exploring and experiencing different things in different categories all throughout the week. So if that's something that interests you, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this with your friends, share this with your family, share it with everyone. We are currently at 12,000 subscribers, and I would really, really, really love to be able to hit that 100K by the end of 2026. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions or other deep dives about travel that you want me to go into in a future video, put those in the comments. And do you like to cruise? What's your favorite line? What's your favorite port of destination? Put that in the comments too. All right, we'll see you.